The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To spread, many are calling for a change to policing.
Some of his officers' jobs could be on the line as possible budget cuts are looming.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Hi, my name is Katie Accardi. I'm 31 years old, and I am a fourth grade elementary school teacher.
Hi, my name is Noelle Saunders. I'm 29. I live in Brooklyn, and I'm a school social worker.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Zach Howarth. I'm 29 years old, and I'm a current MBA student at the University of Virginia's Darden School of Business. But I'm going to be a future Googler working in financial operations.
I'm Sidra Bang. I'm 32 and content strategist and producer.
Hi, my name is McNiskey. I am 29 years old and I am an architect.
Hi, my name is Jen. I'm 30 and I'm a microfinance consultant.
Protesters and even some politicians are demanding that the police department cut $1 billion from its $6 billion budget.
Controversial idea of defunding the police department.
We spent $193 million on policing.
How would I define the defund the police movement? To me, the defund the police movement is, a public outcry to essentially reallocate police funding into, more non-violent resources like social work, education, and it's basically just saying that, police at this point are doing, more harm than good, and because of that, we should, look to kind of flip the way that our society is handling crime. And maybe start to, really start to attack crime to prevent it from ever happening to begin with, right? And that's mostly driven from poverty. Police, are more of an emergency response, where if we can get better education, better social services, better mental health services, people could be in a better position to never ever have to even think about leading, a life of crime to support themselves.
I feel like the word defund is like a harsh word because it really, to everyone, it means like, let's just completely take all of the money from the police department. And that is not necessarily the case. There are definitely people who believe that we could have a functional society and do well and do good things and decrease crime without the police. But that's something that, that's kind of separate from the idea of defund the police. So to me, it means that we are moving the funds, the coin, right, that we put into these police departments, and we are moving them into other effective parts of the city, other different nonprofits, systems, anything.
New York taking the lead with approximately $6 billion, the largest funding for any police department in the U.S. Scaling back would mean smaller budgets, where excess funds are allocated back to community programs like affordable housing and public health.
If you believe, as I do, that we should be able to reform the criminal justice system so that it's not biased and treats everybody fairly, I guess you can use a snappy slogan like defund the police, but you've lost a big audience the minute you say it, which makes it a lot less likely that you're actually going to get the changes you want done.
So I think Obama's remarks really hurt a lot of people in kind of a deep way. To write off the defund the police movement as a snappy slogan is not a just way to put it. Defunding the police is a very serious policy position. It's something that has been advanced by some of the greatest political thinkers and civil rights activists of America of all time. And it's something that, major cities in the U.S. are seriously adopting. So to write it off as a snappy slogan is hurtful.
When I heard his comment calling defund the police a snappy slogan, I was kind of disappointed because it felt a bit condescending. and it didn't feel progressive. I understand what he's trying to say. I completely understand what he's trying to say. But I think the way millennials are thinking, Gen Zs are thinking, people that are just tired of the system, at this point, there is no, there's no need to be polite anymore.
I completely disagree with this comment and thought it was actually pretty insensitive of him to say this. And it shows me that he doesn't completely understand the defund the police movement. And I think that comments like this are harmful because it's not acknowledging that policing is a racist institution. Black and brown people are being policed at higher rates and brutalized at higher rates, much higher rates than white people. And the system in place benefits only one group of people, which is white people. And for this reason, I think that we need to defund the police and put these billions of dollars that are being spent on this racist institution and put this money back into communities, into lower income areas, and invest in that.
I guess from like a logistical and tactical standpoint, if he's talking about, I guess I get what he means when he says it. And I think it also depends on the source. If someone else has said it, it would have been, I may have thought about it differently, but I think knowing Barack Obama as a past president, and someone that has been in a very difficult situation, having to lead a country, but obviously being, a black man himself and having to toe that line, that he represents so many other people. I guess I really didn't mind it when he said it because I got what he meant. I think I agree in a sense. Yes, you do lose some people, right? But whether or not that's, the white suburban votes who don't have an issue with the police force, then yes, you could be losing those types of voters.
Overall, I think Obama had a really good insight there. The first time I ever heard defund the police, I was like, this is a horrible idea. So I don't think that slogan is the best way to communicate the message. I think the message should be, reallocate funding on the police. I know it's not as snappy. I know that it's not gonna make headlines, but I think that's really what the slogan's saying. But overall, yeah, I mean, when I say defund the police to some people that I know that are not liberals, you lose them immediately. They don't want to hear what you have to say because they do really believe that police do provide a good service to our society, which I believe as well. I just think that we need to make it better.
He's not wrong, right? He's definitely not wrong. He's kind of maybe aligning with like the cancel culture that's going on. And like I said, defund is a buzzword, right? And it's definitely a big word. At first it is scary, right? It could lose voters. It could scare away a lot of people. It does separate the people who are maybe more educated about what the actual movement is versus someone who just hears defund the police and they're like, oh no, we need the police. And then they write off the movement. So there's negatives and there's positives, right? There is the type of people that will be scared away by it. And maybe we shouldn't take this approach. We should explain more what defund means. But on the other side of it, we need to take a sort of like radical, blunt approach on this because it's very important that we talk about it. I mean, if we just say, oh well, we should just give the police less money, like no one cares. Like we've been talking about that for decades. But defund the police, right? It's hashtagged. It's a buzzword, like he says, but it's working in a sense. So I'm not mad at Obama. I never could be, right? He's right in that sense. He has to teeter both lines. I wouldn't change the movement. I wouldn't change the name. I would go even more radical if we had to.
People are protesting you all, folks that are wearing the badge and doing the job. And the call to action in a lot of those protests is to defund the police, right? How do you react to that?
Yeah, to Brandon's larger point, we have to think about when we put police officers in schools, what are we doing? Ultimately, we're putting police officers in a situation where they have to make decisions. And a lot of times the decision is easy to criminalize adolescent behavior rather than give that young person the mental health treatment that he needs to deal with whatever issue they have going on.
The FBI crime stats indicate officers with college degrees have a less propensity to violate policy or go outside the scope of their authority. So speaking to what David said, empathy, as police officers, we have to make decisions.
My opinion is pretty much the same as Black Lives Matter. Like, to be honest, it is what I see white suburban communities looking like.
I think the intention is like really good about holding police forces accountable, but I do think it lacks like nuance that is needed in a lot of situations that require a lot of change from human beings and people. It's not just like you can sign a law into action and then police will stop killing people, especially Black men and women. I feel like it's a lot more nuanced because it has to do with all the social, behavioral conditioning of the people in power.
So I'm a big proponent of defunding the police, especially when it's part of that greater abolitionist framework. But I would say I'm very new to understanding it. I used to be kind of a proponent of reformist reforms. So I would see things like anti-bias trainings and, civilian review boards and things like that. And I would think, oh, great, these are like no nonsense, like policies and initiatives that are good. But then the more you read about America's history of reformist reforms, which have been put in place since the 1970s, and the very, very negligible effects on incarceration rates or police violence that we've seen, then it starts moving you towards abolition or non-reformist reforms.
I have all positive opinions about defund the police. I'm here for it. I'm rallying behind everybody. I'm Black. I have Black friends. I have Black family members. I know what it feels like to be targeted by the police. I know what it feels like to be feared by the police. And I also understand the slave master to Ku Klux Klan to police pipeline in our country. It is pure, it's obvious, it's in the books, right? So I'm a big fan of it because it's a system that was created upon racism. It was created to monitor, to police, and to arrest Blacks, right? It is just another form of slavery. You cannot erase the systematic foundation of the police. I don't care what city you're in, I don't care where you're from, you can't erase that. So there are good cops, right? There are cops with great intentions. So again, we don't need to delete the entire police force if you want to go with that. But at the end of the day, the system is so bad, it's so rotten at the bottom that it has to be changed.
Overall, I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm not fully for abolishing the police. I think that's just not the right solution. And a similar analogy I would say is that, people that claim to say, well, the police aren't working, so we need to get rid of them. You could say the same thing about education. Teachers aren't working, so we need to get rid of them. I think the solution is actually to have a smarter way of funding these organizations. It seems like there's a lot of waste. We have like tanks in a lot of police departments. I don't think we need that. We have military grade weapons. I don't think we need that. So overall, I think the movement makes a lot of sense. It supports a lot of liberal policies that I've believed in for a long time. I believe we need a stronger education system. We need more money being funneled into healthcare. We need more money being funneled into local communities. And I don't think the police is the most beneficial use of that funding.
I think the Defund the Police movement is completely necessary. And I think it's time that we start investing in our communities, especially our lower income communities. When we put more money into education, for example, it results in better life outcomes for our students. So why not invest in them and their futures from the start?